Are you personally thinking about embarking on a branding journey? If you are, you need to listen to this episode because we are going to talk about the top three misconceptions around what branding really is and what it can do for you. For those of you that don't know me, I am Leslie Urbis. I'm a registered dietitian and a personal trainer who is a selfless overachiever in recovery, helping women wholly embrace themselves. And you might be thinking, okay, we talk about all things wellness and breaking lies. Why is this on here? Because many of the women that I follow and who follow me are entrepreneurs and who are looking to better themselves and their business and their brand, and are probably like me as well, very confused about what that even means. Because I know while I am an entrepreneur, I never put the business hat on, and I never went to business school, and I never went to marketing school or any of those things. So when people use these big fancy words, it can get very confusing. So today I have an awesome expert with me. Her name is Laura Bull. She has been a friend of mine for quite some time. I would stake my life that if you were to have a conversation with her, she would open your mind to what true branding really is and what it should look like for you. She's got an awesome book, which I will link below, that I have also purchased. I love it because I think she talks about Beyonce within the first 5 minutes of the book. So
Yeah, first sentence.
yeah, it's pretty much fabulous to read if you're a Beyonce fan. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Laura. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So we are talking about the top three misconceptions in branding. And I know we were talking before, but what would you say is one of the number one things that people get wrong when they think about branding?
So the first thing, and the main reason I wrote my book, is that and my background, let me just jump in with that real quick. My background, I was the head of artist development and marketing at Sony Records I was there for a decade. And so I'm used to dealing with global superstar brands who are the people are the face of their brands, right? So that in today's world, I call it the narrative age. That's every entrepreneur because you're the face of your brand, right? Um, so the biggest misconception I found was that people did not understand the difference between marketing and branding. There is a very clear, distinct difference between marketing and branding. And I always try to explain it in the sense of branding is what you want to say for the next 20 years, and marketing is what you want to say for the next 20 days. So you have to have a foundation of the branding side before you can have fun with the marketing side. Does that make sense? So like I won't do any marketing for a client until we are done with the entire development process for the branding.
I totally get it. It makes complete sense. And I don't think it's ever been that clear to me because I guess I've really always assumed that they were one and the same and that they're both the same thing in my mind, you know?
Well, and as entrepreneurs, you go through this process where you're like, okay, I have a logo and now I'm ready to launch, right? And you start marketing, but then you start writing copy and then you start doing these other things that should already be done. Like there's supposed to be this foundation already built out so that you can have so that you can impart a feeling about your product, and that's what's going to connect to the audience, right? So it's really important to develop that voice and identity before you start the marketing process, because then you don't know what to do on the marketing side. And then every new shiny object is something that you should try, or something else that somebody else is doing you want to try. But it could be completely off brand and you could be missing the point. So it's really easy to get muddled on the messaging and muddled on the target audience and how you're communicating with them from a marketing standpoint if there is no brand solid and clear identity to pull from.
Yeah, makes total sense. So basically, by not really identifying your brand, who you're really serving, all of those things,
You're flailing
you
around.
basically, I mean, totally nailed it.
And
Yeah.
and you're wasting money, right? Which no entrepreneur I know has a wealth of funds just sitting there to be wasted, right? Or trial and errors and all of those things. So yeah, I mean, you're going to do some A/B testing, but you're going to be A/B testing a very specific thing. You're not going to be A/B testing two complete different, messaging to a target audience, or hitting two different target audiences. Or I mean, there's so many different that I always say that the possibilities in marketing are infinite. You can come up with so many just anything from a marketing standpoint, if you don't have something to ground yourself in, then it just gets overwhelming and too confusing. If you do have something to ground yourself in, then you stay in line with what you're supposed to be doing. It provides that focus, but you can still have, millions of ideas under this one tangent. Does that make sense?
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I build from there with our second topic. Really, my thought process is, because this is branding isn't marketing. Okay. So let's say this is me. Okay. Could definitely identify as this. I think I actually hired a coach that allowed me to spiral like this because I was identified with who I wanted. And then she was like, but that's not who your market is right now. So you need to start talking to moms. And then I was all over the place. So true. So then I go to, okay, so now I'm in messaging, or maybe I'm even just still in the branding piece here. But then I'm trying to sell my product through me, the person, but they're two separate things. Is that right?
Well, yes and no. If you are the face of your business, if you're providing a service, then you're most likely the face of your business and you're actually selling yourself, right? But for instance, what's a good Jessica Alba and The Honest Company, right? The Honest Company is its own entity. So there is a full brand for that. And then there's a full brand for Jessica Alba. There is a difference between personal branding and product-based branding. And I always say it in the way of, if I was the head of the marketing department at Jeep, and we were sitting around a boardroom, and I was, what we would do is we would try to put a personality onto that Jeep in order to sell it to a target audience that we think is going to, be attracted to it. Therefore, we're going to say, oh, it's outdoorsy, it's fun, it's rugged, it's adventurous. These are things that we're going to place onto that Jeep, right? In order to brand it that way and then go sell it. If you're a person, you already have all those things. You already have characteristics and traits and personality traits and priorities in life and morals and values and all of these things and life experiences that nobody else has had, right? So you have all of these things that you have to cull through and dig through to find your Nike swoosh, right? What are those 4 to 5 things, like the Jeep, those 4 to 5 things? What are those 4 to 5 things that are going to be true in your image, true in your narrative, which is your voice, your personality, everything, and then also in the service that you're providing? So when I'm working with a client, there's a lot of digging in deep introspection work. We do a full audit phase. There's a 2-week questionnaire. I mean, it's very intense to try to figure out, okay, what were you like 20 years ago? Your childhood memories. What were you like 20 years ago? Because through today, because then I'm going to know what what the through line is for 20 years from now, right? Because a person is going to change. Their values are going to change. Their life priorities are going to change, but you can't have a brand change and be successful long-term. So my goal is to always pull through what those key elements are that are going to be true 20 years ago and 20 years from now. And then that's how we kind of figure out what that Nike swoosh is for a person. And so, for instance, Taylor Swift, that's a personal brand, right? She has multiple revenue streams and she sells lots of products, but she is the face of all of those products. Does that make sense?
Completely. Yeah. So I think a lot of people are sitting there like, okay, so then do I not, like, does this come before messaging? Does this come before?
100%. Yes. So when I'm working with a client, we go through the brand story, absolutely, as part of phase 3, which is our implementation phase, after we come up with a brand strategy. So in the brand strategy, we're looking at what the target audience is, what the purpose of the brand is, what is a shared value that you have with that target audience, because it's been proven that that's really the only way to get word of mouth, brand advocates, etc. So we dig into that. We dig into the brand pillars, which are those 4 to 5 characteristic traits of a brand that, when grouped together, make it unique in the marketplace, right? That's very important. And then we go through market research and brand archetype. We identify the brand voice, what's going to attract to that audience. What is the brand image, right? What visual elements, what should it feel like when it is created, right? We do all of that and then some before we get into actually creating logos. And that's another misconception I'm going to throw in there. The branding is not just logos, right? Nike is not about the swoosh. Nike is about just do it. It's about the, empowerment of it all. You can be an athlete too. That's what Nike's about, right? The swoosh just is a way to convey that same message. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So anyways, but we have to do all of that building work and the brand strategy work before we even get to the brand guidelines, the colors, because colors are psychological. There's a reason why most restaurants have red in their logo. It's because it makes people hungry. The color red makes people hungry. So there's all kinds of psychological components. Deep blues are a trusting, reliable, calming color. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do with the color side as well. If a brand is supposed to be a calm brand or a reliable, trusted source, and yet they have an orange logo, orange is very energetic in tone. That could be a complete clash, and you don't even know it because you didn't do the foundational work, right?
Mhm.
Um, so anyways, so then we do all that and then we build the actual brand story. And once we build the brand story, that's what determines the about section and everything from selling points. What are the 5 key selling points of this brand? It has to all come from everything before it. I mean, literally, if I even tried to do like your Instagram bio before I did the long form bio, it's going to be disconnected, right? So everything has to come into, and then you do content pillars, which are different than brand pillars because content pillars are the main themes that you're going to then disseminate across your social media and any content really that you're creating across blogs or whatever. So it does have to come in a specific step or it will not reflect the correct tone, identity, all of that.
Gotcha. So you're like saying branding comes before all the other people you would hire almost.
What do you mean everybody that would hire?
Like, so,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
so
Oh yes,
starting a
yeah, yeah.
business.
Yeah, and here's another thing that people don't talk about too, is that branding will help you determine who to hire.
Mm,
So I did a whole global webinar for an HR certification company. And it was really about if you don't know the company's brand or even the personal brand of the person that you're trying to attract, right? Then you're going to fall short on hiring the right people. So it's the same thing with building out who's your accountant, who's your um, again, who's your marketing team? Because if your marketing team doesn't get the branding information, they're not going to have anything to go off of, and they're just going to try to create it out of the blue, which is a scary thought. And that's why a lot of social media agencies can't get off the ground with some clients because they know all the tricks. They know what to do on Instagram and they know what the algorithms do, but they may not be tuned in to what the brand is if the client didn't give them that brand. Does that make sense?
hmm Yeah,
So everybody on the team will not be working in all cylinders if they don't have a solid brand.
interesting. Cool.
I even
Would
have
you?
photographers who come to me and it's like, you have to work with my client before, or ghostwriters, or there's a lot of people that I work with that get with this, usually thought leaders in those situations, but a thought leader will come to them and hire them for XYZ project. And it's like, but I don't really know what this is yet. Like you gotta go through this branding before I know what to even write in this book or what to structure this book as. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
everything should be coming from branding.
Yeah. So, okay, so twofold to that, but for the one piece is that, so let's say that I'm in the middle of my business and
Never a bad time to start.
never a bad time to start. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Because
Well, because it's
many
about
people,
clearing up. Because if you're in the middle of your business and you're questioning your brand, then that might be a reflection that you do have an issue with your brand somewhere. And that's why we
Mhm.
start with an audit phase because we have to find out where that disconnect is, right? But we do a lot of rebrands, and sometimes it's huge, and sometimes it's like we gotta start over from scratch kind of situation. And sometimes it's, oh, there's this one key element in your visual logos that is off, but your colors are correct and the fonts are correct, and maybe we need to streamline the narratives more here. And so it's not always a, complete revamp, but it definitely tightens things up so that you can make better choices on the marketing side.
Yeah, awesome. So I think the last thing that we really want to address here is that, I think when I first hired my first person way back in my business, she did everything that you're talking about. I didn't really understand it when we did this. As I think about all of our emails back and forth, I'm like, why do you want to know all this stuff? I just hired you to do these few things. And we went down this huge tangent of things. And I don't know that that still resonates with me or that I even remember any of those pieces, but that's how she did all those things, including make my website. So
Yep.
I did that back in 2021. Yep, 2021 is when I did all that. Okay, so now I'm sitting here and it's 2024. I haven't looked at it since then. Is that good, bad, or we talked about this being in a journey? And I
Yeah.
know the
So
last one here is branding's not one and done. What does that
branding
mean?
misconception number 3. Branding is not one and done. It is a long-term strategy. You don't need to go through a hopefully, you don't need to go through a full development process every year or anything like that. That's the goal, is not to ever have to really do that again. But if you are keeping up with the marketplace, the competition, and when I say the marketplace, that's consumer behavior in the marketplace, because that can shift. Like we all saw a bunch of consumer shifts with the pandemic. I mean, anything external can happen that will change consumer behavior. So that's what I mean when I say the marketplace. The competition internally, what's changed? How is your business evolving? And should it be tweaked in the way that it's branded, right? All of these factors come into play, and you have to stay on it. I'd say on a quarterly basis, just to check in, make sure that the messaging that is attached to that branding, right, is working, connecting. There's something viable happening, right? If not, you got to go back to the ground and do an audit, a full audit, and make sure that everything's, connecting as it should. Or find the disconnect. But I will say that branding is a long-term thing. And in my book, I actually use the Pepsi logo as an example of how to evolve correctly over time. Because if you look at the 1800s version of the Pepsi logo and put it right next to the Pepsi logo today, that's complete whiplash to the consumer. Confusion sets in, it's different fonts, it's different, everything is different about it. And it's jarring, right? However, what they did and what you should do is that you evolve as a step ladder, right? Every couple of years, there's a step and another step, and you slowly change specific elements of the branding. And of course, we're only talking about, right now, I'm talking about logo specifically because that's such a visual aspect of the brand, but this could be narrative changes, tone changes. It could be so small, but the goal is to do it very methodically, slowly over a long period of time. So if you're not checking in and you're not doing those audits, then you don't know where you're going in 2 years. And then all of a sudden you're in a place 4 years down the line where you have to do a full rebrand because you did not check in and do those slow steps over time.
Makes total sense. And I think it officially explains why people totally need to hire you. So where do they find you? Where can they learn more?
Okay, so my webpage is www.thebrandmgmt.com for thebrandmanagement.com. And I actually have a checklist there that you can download, and it's the overview picture of what steps I actually take my clients through. So you can checklist off and be like, okay, that's done. That's done. I skipped that and I need to go do that, that kind of thing. So that's for free. There's also a free chapter on my website too. The first chapter, which you talked about, is Beyonce. And of course, the book is everywhere: ebook, audiobook, hardcover, paperback. Amazon is a great place to get that. What else? I think that's it. Oh, and you can follow me at the Laura Bull
On Instagram?
on Instagram, and it's also I think that's the same thing across like Facebook, Twitter. There's a
Okay.
I
Okay,
tried
great.
the
So
same thing across.
find your platform of choice and follow the Laura Bull. Love it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, awesome. Well, all those links will be right below here too. So please feel free to grab them. Outside of that, thank you. That has been very insightful for me as
Hopefully,
well.
thank you.
And for everybody that's watching, thank you for being an amazing audience. As always, have a fit and fabulous day. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all on the next episode. Bye for now.